You're 7 when the vans come to your school. Every kid in the country gets tested the same year, the same week, no exceptions. A woman in a gray coat holds up a small stone and tells you to touch it. You do. The stone glows a dull, ugly color, and she writes something on a clipboard and moves to the next kid without looking at you again. Later, your mother explains it to you in a soft voice. She says you've been chosen. She says the word like it's a gift. What actually happened is the stone measured how much mana you can carry, and you carry almost none. E rank, the lowest tier that still counts as a hunter. Nobody says the word disposable. They say chosen instead, because chosen sounds like something you should be proud of. You're 9 when you get your first look at what rank actually buys someone. The association runs an open day, supposedly to inspire the newly ranked kids, and you're bussed in with the rest of your class. You watch an S-rank trainee spar in a room with mirrored walls and a private instructor who calls him by name. Then, your group gets shown to the E-rank floor, which is one room, no mirrors, a single instructor for 40 kids, and a poster on the wall that says, "Every rank matters" in the same cheerful font used for the school lunch menu. Nobody in the room points out that the poster is the only expensive thing in it.
You're 11 when you learn what E-rank actually means in practice. A neighbor's older brother, also E-rank, goes on its first gate assignment and doesn't come back the same. He comes back missing 2 fingers and doesn't talk about it. Your mother tells you it's rare, that most gates are safe, that the association wouldn't send children into anything they couldn't handle. You believe her, because you're 11, and belief is easier than the alternative. You start to notice things anyway. The A ranks and S ranks train in private facilities with padded floors and personal healers on standby. The E ranks train in a converted gymnasium with one first aid kit bolted to the wall. Nobody explains why. You don't ask. Asking feels like it might get you noticed, and being noticed, for someone like you, has never once been good news.
You're 14 when a gate breaks 2 towns over, and it's on every screen for a week. An S-rank hunter closes it alone, and by alone, the news means alone in the footage that gets shown. There's a statue commissioned before the month is out. There's a scholarship named after him. What the news doesn't show, what you only hear about because a cousin was there, is that 6 E-rank scouts went in first to map the gate's interior, and 3 of them didn't walk out. Their names aren't in the article. They're a number in a sentence about support casualties, considered acceptable within operational parameters. This is the moment you understand your actual job. You're not there to fight. You're there to walk into the dark first so the people who matter know what's waiting before they arrive. You are the flashlight. Nobody remembers the flashlight. You're 17 when your own gate assignment goes wrong. A small break, contained fast, nothing that makes the news. But you're inside when the containment slips, and for maybe 4 minutes, you are genuinely certain you're going to die in a stone corridor that smells like wet copper. You don't. You run, and you don't look back to see if the 2 scouts behind you are still behind you, and later you find out one of them wasn't. You feel something ugly rise up in your chest when the official report calls it a minor incident with no S-rank hunter casualties. Not no casualties, no S-rank hunter casualties. The sentence is built so carefully around what it isn't saying that you almost admire it, the way you might admire a lie that took real effort to construct. You feel the anger, and you swallow it whole, because you've watched what happens to E-ranks who complain. Their contracts get reviewed. Their assignments get worse, not better, quietly reshuffled toward the gates nobody wants. Anger is a currency you can't afford to spend, so you bank it somewhere quiet and try not to look at it directly, the way you'd avoid looking straight at something too bright. You're 19 when you actually sit down to do the math on leaving. You could, technically, you could hand back your hunter's registration and walk away from gates forever. Then you look at what that actually means. No registration means no hunter's insurance, and hunter's insurance is the only thing standing between your family and the medical bills from your father's surgery 2 years ago. The association didn't chain you to this job, they just made sure the only door out leads somewhere worse. You put the paperwork back in the drawer and don't take it out again. You're 22 when you go to your third funeral for someone your own age, same rank as you, same gymnasium you trained in. The service is small. There's no statue, there's a folded flag, and a check that covers maybe 4 months of rent. You sit in the back and you don't cry because you used up your crying 2 funerals ago, and what's left now is just a flat, tired kind of quiet. You get promoted to D rank that same month. Nobody connects the 2 events out loud, but you notice that promotions always seem to follow a body, the same way weather follows a season. Close enough to feel connected, even when nobody will say it plainly. Your mother calls the promotion good news. In a way it is. It means slightly better pay, a slightly safer gate rotation, a badge with a different color thread. You hang the badge in your closet next to the last one, and you don't feel anything you'd call pride. What you feel is closer to relief, the specific relief of a person who has been quietly, carefully keeping themselves alive long enough to be handed a reward for it. You're 25 when the alert comes through at 6 a.m. and it doesn't sound like the others. An S-rank gate, the highest tier that exists, has gone unstable in your own city, 4 kilometers from the apartment where you grew up. The estimate on the board says containment failure in 24 hours, give or take. Every scout in your division gets called in, and you already know what called in means for people at your rank. It means you go in first. It always means that. You spend the first few hours of the 24 doing inventory checks, with your hands shaking just enough that you have to redo the straps on your gear twice. You think about your mother, who still says chosen without any irony at all. You think about the flag from 3 years ago, folded into a triangle, sitting in a drawer somewhere in a house that isn't yours. You think, for one long stretch of the morning, about just not showing up. You could disappear, people do. And then you think about your father's medication and you put your boots on anyway. By hour 12, you're in the staging area with the rest of the scouts, and none of you are talking much because there's nothing to say that hasn't already been said in some other staging area, some other year. The S-rank hunters arrive in the afternoon mid-crisis with a camera crew a respectful distance behind them. They get briefed by officials who use words like strategic and decisive. Nobody briefs you. You already have your orders. Go in ahead, mark the safe paths, radio back what's waiting, don't engage anything above your tier. In other words, be the flashlight again. By hour 18, you're inside, further than you've ever gone, further than you told your mother you'd go, and your radio is the only thing keeping you tethered to anyone at all. Somewhere behind that static is your division commander, and behind him, a chain of people who will each get a paragraph in tomorrow's report. And at the very end of that chain, invisible to all of it, is you. You find the chamber you were sent to find. You mark it. Your hands are steady when you do it, which still surprises you a little after all these years, that your hands know how to be calm even when the rest of you isn't. You call it in, voice level, and somewhere behind you, hours later, the people whose names will be in tomorrow's headlines move through the path you mapped and do what they came to do. You don't resent it, not exactly. Resentment takes energy you learned a long time ago not to spend. What you feel instead is smaller and quieter, the simple, private knowledge that the path existed because you walked it first, whether or not anyone ever writes that down. The gate closes at hour 23. You're not in the room when it happens. You're 3 corridors back, sitting against a wall, checking your own pulse, because for a second you weren't sure it was still going. The official statement that night names 2 S-rank hunters. It thanks the association. It does not mention scouts. It never does. In 20 years there will be a documentary about tonight, and you will not be in it, and that will not surprise you even a little. You walk out into morning light that feels too ordinary for what just happened, and nobody's waiting for you. No crowd, no camera, no folded flag this time, because this time nobody had to fold one. You call your mother. You tell her you're fine. She says she knew you would be because you were chosen, and you don't correct her because some words aren't worth the fight anymore. You go home. You sleep for 11 hours. You wake up alive, unremarkable, unrecorded, and for the first time in a while, that feels
feels like enough. Not a victory anyone will build a statue for, just a Tuesday you're still around to have. And in a life built entirely out of other people's history, that quiet, uncelebrated fact that you made it to the other side of the night turns out to be the only kind of winning that was actually yours to keep.